Spread the faith. God love you all. May God bless America, and may God protect our church. Thank you, thank you.
People here are having a very good time, and Joe Biden will be able to enjoy a crowd in a way that he hasn't really throughout this entire campaign. This is a moment that Joe Biden has been thinking of, working towards for 3 decades. But in many ways, the speech that we are going to hear from him tonight will sound very familiar, hitting on those same themes that we have heard on the campaign trail and throughout his many decades of service. It's just that.
Yeah.
We should probably reflect on the sort of modern family looking group of people up there on stage. We saw Biden's son Hunter, who we have not seen in public at all over the course of his campaign, who's there
holding his new grandchild.
Hunter, yes.
The president-elect is holding his.
Yes, and then he has now a total of 7 grandchildren. Natalie, Robert, Maisie, Finnegan, Naomi, another child that was born to another woman with Hunter, and then the youngest there with his new wife, Melissa. Kamala Harris, those young children, one of them is Amara, her niece. There was a video shot, actually her grandniece. Her niece shot video of them talking the other day about how that 4-year-old could one day become president.
She was sitting on her lap. It was a very cute video. Yes. Yeah, people should look at that.
And Kamala Harris mentioned her stepchildren, Cole and Ella, who are Doug Emhoff's children. And the senator, or the vice president-elect, actually very good friends with Emhoff's former wife. They're all friendly back in Los Angeles. But these are faces and names we'll get to know over the next few years as they take office.
I mean, and, when you talk about, filling your cabinet with people that look like America, that's what that stage looks like right now. Look at the range of color, the range of age, male, female. It really is a beautiful sight to see them all there together. And I love when he said to Kamala Harris, "You're now a Biden, like it or not." You're now a Biden for life, like it or not.
You get the feeling he would want to deputize the whole country into that, given what he really wants to do.
Racist, yeah.
Well, there is something that always strikes me about Joe Biden, given that he has had 47 years in public life and has been busy, is that he calls his children every single day. He calls most of his grandchildren every single day.
Just to say hey?
Just to say hey. Yeah, I know you text with your kids every day and send pictures and stuff too.
But of us with teenagers that don't get a response.
There's something unique about really that diligence with which he loves and cares for his family. And it was really something actually that you heard now Vice President-elect Harris mention in her remarks about the decency that embodies Joe Biden. It's a word he used too, to marshal the forces of decency. They both had similar words that they used: decency, truth, healer, uniter.
That was science.
Yeah.
They both emphasized science, which I thought was interesting.
And
not to COVID.
It was a speech that was very true to Joe Biden.
Yes.
The reason it sounded so natural is because these are themes that he has sounded throughout his political career, including 36 years on Capitol Hill. He was always someone who was trying to make a deal, trying to reach out to the other side. In fact, some Democrats were frustrated with him when he was vice president because they felt he was too eager to reach out to the other side and make a deal. I was just reading a quote from a Republican in Congress from a few years ago who said, "I don't always agree with him, but I do trust him implicitly. He doesn't break his word. He doesn't waste time telling me why I'm wrong. He gets down to brass tacks and keeps sight of the stakes." You know who said that?
Who?
Mitch McConnell.
Oh, win it.
The long game.
Yeah.
In the book.
I was going to say, John, how did you know that? I said encyclopedic mind again. Here's another first in the Biden White House. Biden's dog, Major, will be the first shelter pup to live in the White House. I don't know what kind of dog Major is. John Dickerson, what kind of dog?
I know, it's a German Shepherd. The Bidens have always had German Shepherds.
They have?
Yes.
Okay.
And so,
By the way, I was keeping count. He said folks 7 times. That was he. No malarkey.
not, he threw a y'all in there as well.
You know, I found the phrase that I was looking for, Vice President-elect's phrase about Joe Biden. She said he is a man with a big heart who loves without abandon.
Yes.
And he certainly has done that with his family and through his career as a public servant. And that will be his task, is to love with abandon those who disagree with him vehemently, and the direction that perhaps he wants to take the country, and feel sort of stuck in their ways about what they believe, and the distrust that has really come to embody our politics. That you can, for some reason, it's extended beyond what you believe, that you just can't trust the other person.
It's interesting that we're sitting here at Times Square. You can hear the roar of the crowd as we're sitting in the building. You can hear the applause. The car horns have gotten louder now that it's over. I mean, you feel it's a big celebration right outside of our walls. Mm-hmm. I like too that he mentioned again he will work just as hard for those who didn't work for me. I will work just as hard for you. Again, he keeps extending that branch to say, I'm here for you and want to work with you. I think that's a very important message to send. And you can't say it enough. You can't say it enough, because we are deeply divided. We sit here tonight as a nation.
And of course, saying it isn't enough, which is to say, you know, but I think behind these words, whether it actually works out this way in his presidency or not, behind them is the struggle to at least get caught trying to reach out. And that's, you know, anybody can put words on a page, but he really, and in fact was penalized by this in the Democratic primaries for this idea that you have to reach out to get anything done. And sometimes have to reach out and work with people you might not think are the most swell people in the world, but that's the way you make progress.
But I say again, John, just the fact that he chose Kamala Harris, we talked about this afternoon, after he felt slighted by her during the debate. He was clearly very irritated, felt that, you know, many people thought that it was a low blow. But you could see that he got past that because he chose what he felt was best for him and what was best for the country. I think that speaks volumes about who he is as a person. There are many people that would not be able to get past that, but he did.
And there's no one who understands better how important having that rapport with your running mate is, because he did that for 8 years for President Obama, who also extended the olive branch many times. You know, remember the beer summit, you know, kept trying to go back to Capitol Hill, but actually got rather disillusioned towards the end of his presidency and didn't feel like he was getting the same goodwill in response. He said it was like, you know, you're digging the ditch, and you've got, you know, the rest of the construction crew standing there at the edge saying, dig more, instead of jumping in to help. And
well, there's a new book coming out in a couple of weeks. You can hear more about that before.
Oh, this is Barack Obama's book.
Yeah, Barack Obama's book, to see if we can get the inside scoop.
There you see Times Square and the celebration as thousands have gathered at what's called the crossroads of the world to mark this moment. It's as if...
Those are live pictures right now. That's happening right now.
It's as if in some ways the pandemic has ended, which it has not. But people feel that sense of that they want to rush to the scene of where other people are to join in the celebration of the election of the 46th President of the United States. And I think there's not only a sense of excitement about that, but I also think, you know, Kamala Harris said that the audacity of Joe Biden to choose a woman. But I think there was also something pragmatic about that as well. I mean, not just the audacity of it. I think that the president-elect has been surrounded by strong women, including his sister.
And I remember, I believe, there's a congresswoman from Delaware, Lisa Blunt Rochester, who told our Bo Erickson vice presidential selection process that at the beginning, before he even ran, he told her he would likely pick a woman as running mate because he understood that it was time for that threshold to be crossed. So it was always in the back of his mind. He surprised everyone in March, right as the pandemic was beginning, in his final primary debate with Bernie Sanders by announcing that he would do it, and immediately faced pressure to pick a woman of color. And understanding that there was an opportunity, given that Kamala Harris was in the race. And
what was going on in the country at the time.
Right. He, in the process, elevated several women of color in his party who are now household names, at least to those who watch a lot of TV news. Keisha Lance Bottoms of Atlanta, Val Demings of Florida, people who are not well known, but he helped elevate. And that is part of what his administration plans to do, is to put people in positions. He has said it but he means it, and his aides tell us he means it. He will put people in positions of power that have not been in those kinds of positions before because he wants the country to understand and accept that people like that can be working in government.
And I thought he was actually very explicit about that right at his speech tonight, saying the African American community has always had my back, and now it's my turn to have yours. It's a real recognition, I would say an overdue recognition, that African Americans and African American women in particular have delivered victories for Democrats time and time again, and perhaps have not gotten the recognition and the respect that they deserve for that reliability.
Since 1976, 80% of African American women have voted for the Democratic presidential candidate every time. No other block of voters has been that loyal to the Democratic presidential candidate each time. He understood it.
And certainly propelled his victory not only in the primary, but also backed him in the general election as well. We want to bring in Senator Chris Coons, a close friend of the new president-elect. He holds the Senate seat that Joe Biden once held. Good evening, Senator Coons, and thank you so much for joining us, especially on this momentous occasion. And I guess, have the fireworks already stopped?
No, it's been an amazing evening. I think Joe gave a powerful, a moving speech. And to see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on this stage behind me just a few moments ago brought tears to many eyes here in Wilmington, Delaware, and hope to many hearts all across our nation.
I know you've spoken with him. Just how ambitious is his agenda even before he moves into the White House?
Well, as you know, bringing our country together in this moment of deep division, getting us out of this pandemic, rebuilding our economy so it's more just and sustainable, and restoring our place in the world, that's a fairly ambitious agenda. That's what Joe's been running on since he announced in April of last year, and I think he is exactly the right leader to deliver on that ambitious agenda for our nation this coming year.
And have you been able to speak with him today? Do you know if he's
Yes.
reached out to President Trump, or is he waiting first to hear from him? What's your sense of that?
I don't know whether he will reach out first, but as you heard in his speech tonight, and as you've heard from him all along the campaign trail, Joe is someone who believes deeply in healing the divisions in this country, in bringing us together. So I expect that he'll be reaching out in a variety of ways to Republican leaders, to Americans of all backgrounds and political persuasions.
Senator Coons, it's John Dickerson here. You have a lot of relationships with Republicans that you tended for in a variety of different ways. Have you heard from any Republicans? There's been not much well-wishing of the president-elect. Have you heard from any Republicans privately or otherwise about their feelings?
Absolutely. I've spoken to about a dozen of my colleagues, some by text, most by phone in recent days. Initially a number of us were calling each other to offer congratulations on being reelected or condolences on being unsuccessful. And in talking to Democratic and Republican senators alike, there's a passion for moving forward, for getting things done in Congress, for responding to the real needs of our constituents. This has been one of the most divisive elections of my lifetime, and recent years in the Senate has been profoundly unsatisfying to senators of both parties, because we know we haven't addressed the needs of middle America. So I'm optimistic that the senators who've served with Joe for many years, who've known him as a senator and vice president, know his character, know his heart, and are going to be willing to risk working across the aisle with a Biden administration, a Biden-Harris administration.
Senator, do you think they will risk reaching across the aisle now to hasten this moment of unity that you're talking about by saying something congratulating the president-elect?
I hope so. Look, I've been disappointed many times in the ways in which my colleagues have not stood up to President Trump, those who privately have expressed grave concern about things he's done that have been unconventional or have violated some of the important traditions of our nation. This is a moment for all of us to come together to support the president-elect and the vice president-elect, but more importantly, to support the American people. You heard in Joe's remarks tonight that his hope, his ambition is to lead as an American president, not a Democratic president, and we have an opportunity to do that now. And I'm hopeful my colleagues of all backgrounds, Democrat, Independent, and Republican in the Senate, will come forward and do that.
Senator Coates, I agree with you. It's Gayle King speaking, when you said you think it's one of the best speeches he's ever given. There were so many highlights, if you will, but as someone who has known him for such a long time, can you share with us what this moment means to him? You know, it's true when they say third time's the charm, it seems, for your friend tonight.
But Gail, as you know, this is the moment that Joe Biden was made for. This was the moment that all the ups and downs of his life, the tragedies and losses, the successes and the soaring accomplishments, all of it came together in this election, in this moment. We're in the middle of a terrible pandemic where more than 100,000 Americans have been infected each of the last 3 days. We need a president who's compassionate, who can reach across the aisle, who can listen to science, and who can get us out of our current challenges. Joe has run twice before, but this is the moment that he was built for because of his optimism, his deep belief in the American people. You heard his message tonight of confidence that we can do things together to hit in this challenging time in our nation. And Kamala Harris is just the right person to lead alongside him as vice president.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at your TV this afternoon, but I described it as a nationwide block party. You can really see the exuberance and the bliss of people in the streets. What does that say to you? Of course, the Trump supporters are not happy tonight. We understand that too, and acknowledge the power that Donald Trump has among the people who supported him. But what does it say to you when you look at the people celebrating in the streets the way they are in this country tonight?
Well, I think the joy that I heard here in Delaware wasn't just for Republicans or Democrats. It was really about our democracy working and moving forward. The last 4 days have been long, and people have been patient. And 150 million Americans roughly came out to vote in this election. And think about it, the ways in which we have shown as a nation our confidence in our system, in our democracy, and the ways in which the elation, the jubilation, the dancing in the streets that you're talking about, Gail, that's an expression of joyfulness and of hopefulness about what is possible with the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and with the willingness to work together.
Senator Coons, it's Nancy Cordes. Good to see you. You talked a minute ago about the need to restore the nation's place in the world. Well, you've been mentioned several times as someone who might be on the president-elect's shortlist for Secretary of State.
Yes.
So is that a position you'd be interested in? What qualities would you like to see in the next Secretary of State?
Well, Nancy, as you know, I've worked hard in the last decade to bridge the differences in the Senate. And I think Joe is perfectly positioned to be the person to help bridge some of the real challenges in the world. The best way that we can be a successful nation on the world stage is to heal our democracy here at home. And whether Joe asks me to be a part of that work in the Senate or in another way as a part of his administration, I'd be honored to do so. He has a number of very talented people right around him who've served with him many years, from whom he could choose. But if I got that opportunity, it'd be the honor of a lifetime.
All right, Senator Coons, thank you so much for joining us as we wrap up there from Wilmington, Delaware, just as we heard the president-elect saying that he pledges to be an American who will seek not to divide, but to unify. There's a lot more ahead. We'll check in with our correspondents at the celebrations around the country as we continue our coverage of the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris right here on CBS News.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. Oh, and reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
But wait, there's more. Experience thought-provoking,
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
innovative, and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
COVID has taken the lives of tens of thousands of Americans. Rural areas like this here in Navajo Nation are especially hit hard.
15 to 30% of our Navajo citizens don't have running water.
In any indigenous reservation, there is a shortage of physicians.
Native Americans are amongst the most vulnerable and hardest hit by COVID.
Yeah, the more we lose our elders to COVID-19, the more we lose our language and our way of life.
We need to bring awareness to the attention of Washington, D.C. and United States citizens that there is a need to focus on the first citizens of this country.
In 60 years, we went from about 100,000 factory workers to probably about 7,000.
Off in the distance, you can see some factories that are still humming, but most of them are just kind of abandoned.
The restaurant industry right now is one of the largest and fastest growing industries in America. And yet it continues to be the absolute lowest paying employer in the United States.
Barely anybody's making enough to live.
You're donating plasma to get by.
It's literally a slave wage. I don't remember growing up like this. My mom didn't have to go to food banks. It's pretty sad.
Even really young kids are feeling what's going on right now. How should parents be talking to them about this question of racial justice?
How do we embrace this moment and turn it into real change?
What we really must focus on is moving from protesting to policy.
Join Gail, Anthony, and Tony on CBS This Morning.
CBSN Los Angeles. Get local news, breaking news for anytime, anywhere.
It's easy.